Desiree Smith, one of Tupac's ex-girlfriends. If you don't mind, man, can you talk a little bit about her and what you remember about her from back then?
I know Desiree, man. She just was one of them. She just was a solid individual. I do remember like Pac having a lot of respect for her, and she was young when she was around us back in the day. Even after Pac died, we ran into her. She just always carried herself respectfully. You know what I mean? She always just been a good dude, a good lady. You know what I mean? My bad, not good dude. She always been a respectful person. I always had respect for her. Even to this day, she's married with her kids, raising her kids. Desiree was one of them. She just was a soldier, like literally, like she was a soldier. Like she was very loyal and young. I think Puerto Rican lady from New York, Puerto Rican girl from New York. Pac knew her mother. He knew her. He knew the mother. He had a lot of respect for her for sure.
I did an interview with her, man, and she told a story about how the police was trying to get her to go against Tupac and how the police was trying to get her to set up Tupac. Cause her and Tupac, they made a videotape together, and the police was trying to get her to say she was underage in the videotape. Did you know about that?
I do remember Pac. I don't know about that, but I do remember Pac. You know, she was like 17 or something like that, and the mother gave permission for her and Pac to talk to each other, things like that. You know what I mean? I do remember that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to probably use her to set him up or something like that. But knowing her, she not gonna do it. Like I said, she always just been a solid person. Good person.
Right, and when Tupac got out of prison, he flew her out to L.A. Right?
I think yeah, she was around a few times for sure. As when he got out of prison, she was on the West Coast for some time, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Definitely, yeah, definitely.
And she told me another story that was interesting, man, because it's actually letters that Tupac was writing her while he was in prison. And she told a story about how when Tupac was in prison, for being accused of assault or whatever, she said that Big Stretch, he was trying to talk to her behind, Tupac back.
I think I seen that. I think I seen it. Coming up in the hood, people grimy, bro. These things happen all the time. How many times people go to jail and a person first, okay, he's in jail now. Let me go call his wife. Let me go. You know what I mean? This come with the territory of from our communities, unfortunately. You know what I mean? That a lot of time when a person, I don't know if it's true or not. You know what I mean? But it won't be surprising because we hear so many stories like that.
Right, and speaking of Stretch, man, for years and years, man, it's been this rumor that Tupac had something to do with his demise and all that. But it actually broke. News broke that the same guy that killed Jam Master Jay is the same guy that killed Stretch. How you feel about that, yo?
Yeah, I never thought that Pac had anything to do with him, to do with his death. One thing I do know about Pac, like even though when he died, he wasn't on good terms with Stretch. He was angry at Stretch. He needed answers. He felt like Stretch knew some things that he wasn't telling him. But me knowing Pac, if he would have to Stretch, ran into him, I'm sure they would have sat down. And Pac, because Pac loved him, you know what I mean? So I'm sure Pac would have said, "What happened with this?" And he would have hollered at him. But I don't think it was to the point where Pac would have wanted to see him hurt. Even with Biggie, I heard Pac say this out of his own mouth. He said, "Man, I don't really want nothing bad to happen to Biggie. I just want to spank him like my little brother." So I think eventually Pac would have got all of this out of his system because you got to realize Pac died. He was only 25 years old. A lot of us in the hood, we got PTSD, like literally, like real. If you come up from an environment and you just seeing death all of your life, and we traumatized. So imagine Pac getting shot. Somebody lied and said he raped her. He go to prison not for rape, for something else. Um, Shot, prison, straight to death row, straight into the studio, dissing. He never really got a chance to even sit back and sit back and say, okay, who everything was going too fast. You know what I mean? He never really got a chance to sit back and try to work out and put the clues together. You know what I mean? He was just on it. And I think eventually, if he would have ran into Stretch, he would have definitely, that's why he had that song, "You Need to Holler at Me When I See You," and he was talking about Stretch. You know what I mean? And he would have probably wanted to say what happened with that because he loved him. I don't think he would have had. He definitely didn't have anything to do with his death.
Yeah, speaking of holla at me, man, Tupac song did real hurt on that song, yo.
Yeah, and if you that song was more, it came from a place of hurt and pain because he was hurt of what, you know what I mean. It's not just, people might make it seem like Pac was mad because he didn't do nothing when he got shot. No, it was things after that. You know, I was there when he brought the message from Jimmy Henchman. You know what I mean? It was, I was there when he said Jimmy Henchman said you don't got your money right, you don't want to go to war. You know what I mean? Certain incidents that Pac felt hurt for, and so it was deeper than it was. It definitely was from pain. Like this is that was hurtful for Pac. So I don't think he knew. I don't think Stretch had anything to do with setting up Pac. We're gonna make that clear. You know what I mean? I don't think he had anything to do with it. But what happened is bringing the message from your enemy that don't sit right. You know what I mean? Because there's certain codes that back then, if you're gonna say you're going by the code, then you got to go all the way out or don't be involved in it at all. You know what I mean? So I think Pac was hurt from these standpoints, these things that was happening. But he never thought Stretch had anything to do with it. But you can't bring, you line shot up and you saying, oh, by the way, Jimmy Henchman said this. And me, I'm 17, 18 years old, straight from the block. When I used to be around Pot back then, I wasn't like I can say some of the other outlaw members who, when they not around Pot, they go straight to their mother homes. You know what I mean? When I wasn't around Pac, I was back on Chancellor Avenue, my neighborhood, around drug dealers, killers, murderers. You know what I mean? So I was that type of lifestyle was fresh, impacted on my mind. So when I seen that as a 17, 16-year-old kid, you know what I mean, coming from the streets, like, man, how you bring a message from his enemy? And I even looked at Pac like, wait a minute. So I think, to make it clear, in case somebody try to run with it, I don't think Pac ever thought Stretch had anything to do with it, but he was hurt because of these little incidents. You know what I mean? That's like if you have a brother, you know what I mean? You grew up with your brother and you have a fight with of somebody in the neighborhood as kids, it can happen. Then all of a sudden your brother's still friends with him. You be mad. Like, why are you still friends with him? Even though you all grew up with each other. So I think it was that one of them situations.